Hey there, today I'm going to go over how I organize my sketch files for web and UI design. Okay, so the first place I start is with a starter file that I have created over time. It's gone through a few iterations and it'll probably evolve over time as my methodology evolves. There are two ways that I start with this file. The first is simply to open it up and save it as a new file inside Sketch. You can do this with Command-Shift-S or by heading over to File and Duplicate. So what that does is create a copy of the file, and you can change the name and everything that you need to do. Okay, so the next method is to turn it into a stationary pad file in macOS. This is actually a really handy tip if you ever need to use a file as a template. All you need to do is head over to the file inside Finder and get to the info palette. And you can do this a couple of different ways. The first is to hit Command-I on your keyboard, or you can right-click and select Get Info. You'll see that there's some metadata here under General, and under that there is a checkbox called Stationary Pad. If I click this and then close out of here, when I go to open this file now, what happens is I'll get a copy. You can see that I've already done this here before, so I'm going to trash that one, and I'm going to double click to open, and you can see that it copied it and then it opened up that copy. So as long as that little stationary pad option is checked, every time you try to open that file, it's going to create a copy and open that instead. Alright, so inside this starter file, I have 3 pages. Screens, Design System, and Symbols. Symbols is really straightforward. That's where Sketch keeps all of the symbols as you create them. The Design System page is the backbone of this file. That's where I have several artboards that give me a head start on designing various parts of this project. The first artboard is typography. I'm not going to get into too much detail here because typography can get a little cumbersome with Sketch, but I've already got my style set up, so here is where I modify those to match the design as I'm creating the different screens and everything. The next board that I have is color. Now I have 2 sets of color, the brand and UI colors and the supporting colors. I create the brand colors before I design any screens whatsoever, as those are going to be key to all of the UI. I'll go over how I do that in an upcoming video, but basically this is a set of 2 to 3 colors, each with varying tints, but based on the logo or the brand style guides that the client has given me. Supporting colors, on the other hand, are just used for states and callouts. Next up, I've got the components artboard. So there's not a lot going on here right now. This is definitely one of the pieces of this starter file that is going to grow and evolve over time as the different pieces that I include on every project will change. So for now, under buttons, I've got several buttons, as well as some notes on the different types of buttons and their interactive states and the different possibilities and combinations of those, just so I have that little reminder there. Under forms, I've included text inputs, checkboxes, radio groups, and other components that are often needed for a web form. All right, so the next 6 artboards are for grids. The first 3 that you'll see at the top over here are my standard grids for desktop, tablet, and mobile. The second 3 are based on Google's material design standards. And basically, I just copy the one that I need into the screens page and get going from there. Finally, the last artboard is grids and spacing. This is one that I'm mainly going to use if I'm handing off my sketch file to another developer rather than building the project out myself. This helps them understand the grid and spacing that I've been using throughout the UI design. All right, now heading back into the screens page, you can see that right now it is blank. And as I mentioned earlier, what I'll do is I'll grab one of those grid layouts, grid artboards, and drop it in here. But as far as how I organize the screens page, it really is going to depend on the types of screens that I need. Since I'm often going to be the one building the project out, I'll generally just create screens for the desktop size and work on the mobile and tablet screens as I build the site or the app out. If I'm handing this off to another developer, however, it's really going to depend on whether or not the developer and or the client requires the other sizes to be designed. So sometimes I will just go ahead and create a few mobile or tablet screens if they just kind of warrant a more detailed and nuanced layout for any specific reason. So when I do need those additional sizes, I add a couple more pages in Sketch, one for each size. So screens ends up becoming at desktop. And then I'll add a couple more, one for tablet and one for mobile. Since I also do web app design from time to time, the various screens may need to change. For example, I've been working on a project that has 3 user types essentially. One being just your general non-logged in user, just a visitor to the site. Another which is a therapist or provider view and account, and then the client account. So for those, I needed general website screens, provider specific screens, and client specific screens. So I broke those down in Sketch like so. Desktop became website at desktop, and then I did provider at desktop, and sometimes I'll use spaces, sometimes I won't. And then I'll do client at desktop. Now if I needed to create additional screens for mobile and tablet, then I would just add those as needed. So I would do website at tablet, and then website at mobile, and so on and so forth. Okay, so one last quick tip before we go. Being the slightly obsessively organized person that I can be, I love to have my symbols organized. And for that, I really recommend a plugin that is appropriately named Symbol Organizer. Symbol Organizer lays out your symbols in rows or columns based on how you've named them. I won't go into detail about that here in this video, but I will provide a link to Symbol Organizer in the description below. All right, that wraps it up for this video. I hope that you've enjoyed it and gotten something out of it. Until next time.